What is up, YouTube? I'm here with Alex Carmenaty for our Week 10 NFL predictions. It looks like an amazing week of football. The 1 o'clock window of games is amazing. There's some great games later on, even past that. So let's get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. So, Alex, the first game I want to get into is potentially a disaster of the week game. Thursday Night Football. We got Panthers, Bears. What do you got on this one?
Another prime example of why Thursday night football absolutely stinks. This game is going to be painful. It's going to be brutal. Carolina has a win somehow, and Chicago blew a game yet again, this time to New Orleans. So we're seeing two teams that are really at the bottom of the barrel. And, when you have vomit and more vomit, it's really tough to choose which one you like.
Yeah.
And with this one, with how bad Chicago's been all year, but how much of a better team they are than Carolina, you got to go with Chicago in this one. And Tyson Badgett has looked actually pretty solid in these games that he's
Yeah.
played. Now, sure, Chicago hasn't won, but Badgett's played very well, and even in the win actually versus Vegas, put up a pretty good effort against the Raiders. So
Yeah.
you got to go with Chicago because even though they've only won two games this year, they're the worst of two evils, or rather the better of two evils. And when you look at these two teams, I mean, Carolina is just pathetic. And sure, Adam Thielen is playing great so far, and Bryce Young has looked a little better. But the Panthers are the Panthers. They're hopeless. And in this hopeless matchup where you don't want to watch it whatsoever, you go with Chicago.
You know what? This is gonna sound crazy, but I'm actually gonna take the Panthers in this one.
Okay.
I think Bryce Young and Adam Thielen are gonna help lead the Panthers to a win. I'm not a Badgett guy. Look, his first time out there looked pretty good, but just since, not really that good. Uh, look, not amazing, not something that'll blow your mind. Sorry, I should
I mean,
reword
look,
that.
I mean, but Jason, he's not supposed to be that type of guy. I mean, they've
No,
got
you're
Justin
right.
Fields there for a reason, who is the franchise, and Badgett's a backup. But even as a backup, I mean, he's been competent. He's been playing well offensively. It's just the Bears' defense stinks, and on top of that, Carolina's defense is worse. So you're probably going to have somewhat of a high scoring game, not as high scoring as the Rams Chiefs a couple years ago, but you'll have a game where I think both teams put up maybe in the teens or even the 20s to a certain extent, because both
Yes,
of these defenses are just that bad. And you're going to see a decent amount of offense from both teams, but I think Chicago is going to outmatch Carolina
yes.
because the Panthers won't be able to keep up.
Yeah, one thing we do have to look at, and I was just checking this while you were talking just to confirm and make sure, and this actually surprised me because I didn't know this. Justin Fields is now listed as questionable. He's not like 100% playing, but there's a chance he might end up playing that game. So
And
look, if he does, it's definitely it will be a Bears win actually.
Well, look, I mean, if he plays, that turns the tides. But right now, again, you assume and you go with the fact that Badgett's going to start.
Yeah,
And if Badgett starts, if he starts or Justin Fields or whoever starts, I think you go with Chicago.
yeah,
Now, look,
okay,
Carolina upset Houston, and I'll give them the credit for that. Don't get me wrong. But this Panthers team is just horrible. This
yeah,
Panthers team is not good. And again, their biggest weak fall or their biggest weakness is their defense.
yeah.
And with that in mind, with how Chicago is starting to pick up their offense a little bit more week by week, they're not going to keep up with, DJ Moore and the rest of the Chicago team that is playing better on the offensive side.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, look, I just overall, you would think Bryce Young should be able to win this battle, but you're probably right to be honest. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it does go the Panthers' way because we don't know what to expect of from Badgett or if Justin Fields ends up being the one playing, what ends up happening with him and how does he look out there? So
I mean, I've learned at this point, some of my predictions, I say it's going to happen, and I fold like a cheap suit
it's
just as
the
bad as you.
furthest thing from what happens. Yes.
So look, I mean, take my words at face value, or take him and spit him out for all I care. But look, I mean, hey, Carolina could win for all we know, or I could be right, like I am half the time, or less than half the time, and Chicago could win on Thursday,
Yeah.
like we expect.
Again, will be an ugly game though.
Yes,
We move
absolutely.
into an international game. I'm not 100% sure where this one is being held. But I am sorry for the fans and for that are attending this international game. Another brutal game. We got Colts versus Patriots.
Colts versus Patriots in Germany, and the
It's in
NFL is going to be
Germany. Okay.
there for a second straight week. Now, KC beat the Dolphins. Kudos to them for that. This game is going to be painful. And honestly, it's either going to be that Gardner Minshew and the Colts have a really good offensive day, and Mac Jones and the
Yeah.
Patriots offense struggles yet again, or New England is going to somehow find life, and the Colts will again be in a shootout and lose.
Yeah.
So you're getting either one right here. And honestly, from what I've seen from Indy, despite them losing more games than winning, I'm more impressed with them offensively
Yeah.
than I am New England for sure. And I think that enough will tell you what's going to happen in this game. Now, I guarantee the Patriots have looked a little better, not great, but they've looked a little better. And
It's
that
looked
win
less
versus
ugly.
Buffalo,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and that win versus Buffalo was a real smack in the face for the Bills. But I think at the same time, you look at the way the Colts have looked offensively, and even without Jonathan Taylor having a big game, their offense is still getting the job done, even without their rookie quarterback
Yeah.
and Anthony Richardson as well. So, based off those things and based off how things have looked in general this year, especially offensively, give me Indy.
I'm gonna take Indy as well. Look, it's just hard for me to go, with the Patriots. As we said, they did beat the Bills, but they haven't done enough to warrant me taking them in the prediction. Minshew has looked decent. Jonathan Taylor looks like his usual self. Michael Pittman Jr. looks amazing. Um, the one thing about New England is, look, yes, you have Ramondre Stevenson. Yes, you have you know, Zeke, but also Bowen is there too, but they don't have one real guy that blows your mind on the offense that really makes a difference in my opinion. I don't know if you feel different on that, but
Well, look, I mean, I think Hunter Henry has been a guy that Mac Jones has been able to build
that
some
that
chemistry
yes,
with,
Hunter Henry has,
and
but
that
he's
was the
not
case in
he's
that win
not an
versus
elite.
Buffalo.
He's not an elite guy though, is what
Oh
I'm
no,
saying.
he's not. And again, the problem is that New England does not have an elite receiver or an elite team. Now, guaranteed they have Juju Smith-Schuster, but
Mm.
Juju was not the player he once was, especially in Pittsburgh. So, if you look at a receiver or a tight end, no one is a top 10 player in either category on this Patriots offense, especially Mac Jones. He's not even as a whole, and the Patriots offense has been a mess all year. Now, again, give them credit where credit's due, especially versus Buffalo in that win, and how, Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki got the big scores and really led the charge offensively to win that game versus Buffalo. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I look at these things, I look at this Patriots team, and their offense is nowhere close to the Colts.
No.
So the Colts can give up 25, 30 points again. I mean, it could be a shootout potentially, but I think if you look at again this thing, the entire ordeal for both teams, especially for New England, there's no way the Patriots win Germany.
No, yeah. Definitely going Colts here. Look, I actually could see them. I actually see the Patriots struggling in this game. I just really do, especially with already how Mac Jones tends to look. That offenses, and then flying out to Germany, it could be a struggle for them. All right, but we move into the first 1 o'clock window game, and I think this actually, and this is crazy to me, there's actually some really good games in the 1 o'clock window, but this one might be the one I'm most excited about. We got CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. What do you got on this one?
That's going to be a good matchup. And I'll tell you this much. You've got Joe Burrow coming off a really good performance versus Buffalo. CJ Stroud, we all know about him. I've been saying it multiple times on this program. For my money right now, the rookie of the year. And you're going to have a QB showdown. And honestly, this could be a really good matchup in the 1 o'clock window for two teams that are looking to further improve their playoff
Yeah,
chances. And look, I mean, this one can go either way, Jason. Both offenses are strong. The
yeah,
defenses too, when they're on point, they're on point. So I can see this being a 3 to 7 point game. But I'll be honest with you. Look, I mean, we look at the way Cincinnati's played the past couple of weeks, and they played great. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. But Houston has been a surprise all year
yeah,
long.
yep,
And I look at the Texans, and I look at how hungry they are. And I look at how determined they are, especially with CJ Stroud stepping up in big ways. So I think, and you might be surprised here, but you know what? I'm going with Houston. I'm buying the Texans. I'm buying CJ Stroud. I'm buying the fact that they're going to be a playoff contender. I think they're going to make the postseason at the end of the day. And look, since he's been great, they played strong. They've won a couple in a row. They've shocked San Francisco. They beat up on Buffalo. They played some really good football these past couple of weeks, and their season has turned around like that. So, with those things in mind, I see Cincinnati really, really playing well. But I think with Houston, especially coming off a recent look, I mean, they played, they lost that game to Carolina, and they're known for bouncing back after some tough performances.
Yep.
So, I think when you look at this Texans team as a whole, I think they're going to upset Cincinnati, and it's time the Bengals have their winning streak come to a close. So I think Stroud and company do that.
Um, this is a game between two quarterbacks who are just so good, and I could see it going either way. I really could. Um, I can't believe I'm saying this as somebody who likes the Bengals, but I'm going the Texans as well. Um, I just think Stroud is so good. He's Tank Dell has looked amazing out there. Dalton Schultz had a massive week. Another one of those guys who usually doesn't do anything and then kills my fantasy team the week I play against him. Um, guy who averages 10 points and then gets 29 against me and I lose by 11. Um, that's that kind of guy, but he did it last week. So CJ Stroud just building chemistry with his team, and they're just so good. I mean, this would be a huge statement win for the Texans to beat them. Look, T. Higgins finally woke up for the Bengals this week. Joe Mixon's been playing better. Jamar Chase banged up his back a little bit, so his status for this weekend is uncertain. It sounds like he's most likely gonna go, but we'll see how he is doing that game. But yeah, overall, I mean, look, the Bengals have looked good. They beat the Niners, as you said. They
Yeah.
beat the Bills. But overall, even with how they've looked, I am actually still more impressed with the Texans offense.
No, I mean, again, Houston's offense has just been so consistent. Despite
You're
the loss to
muffled, by the way.
Carolina.
Just you're a little muffled.
Look, I mean,
There you go.
Houston
You're good.
had
You're good. You're good now.
so look, I mean, Houston has really looked good all season long. And sure, they've had some tough moments, and the game versus Carolina was not pretty whatsoever. But at the same time, this is a team that's really shocked the entire league, and CJ Stroud is playing out of his mind. So I put those things together, and I mean, look, they are a team that could put this off. Now, again, let's not forget Cincinnati is the better team, and Cincinnati is very good, and they've won 4 straight, and they're having a really, really good bounce back throughout these past couple of weeks, and they played really well versus Buffalo last Sunday night. So Cincinnati is favored, and rightly so. But again, look, I mean, we could be wrong on this, and if we are, that's expected. But what also could be intriguing to say is that if we get this pick right, that tells you a lot about Houston, C.J. Stroud, this Texans team, and how legit they are.
No, 100% agree. But no matter what, whoever wins, it's going to be a fun, really fun game.
Yep.
The next 1 o'clock game is actually another game that's really exciting, especially with how the two teams have played lately. Joshua Dobbs now being there and leading the Vikings to that comeback last week. We got the Saints Vikings. What do you got on this one?
That'll be interesting, and I'm going to bet on Minnesota. Look, Josh Dobbs had a really good portion of the year with Arizona, and yeah, maybe he wasn't as best as he was towards the end of his Cardinals tenure, but you know what? He's in Minnesota now. Kirk Cousins done for the year. The rookie quarterback gets banged up in the first quarter. They bring in Dobbs for a reason. He plays great. He leads a comeback win. So I think Minnesota bounces off of that, and the Vikings have just turned around dramatically after
Oh
starting
yeah.
1-4. The win versus Chicago, of course, when you beat the Bears, your season turns around. So that's been the case for Minnesota. And yeah, since then they beat San Fran, they beat some other teams. They had a great win last weekend. So I think they'll continue that. And look, New Orleans has played great too, especially after a really tough loss to Jacksonville. And they beat up on Chicago last week. So look, give credit where credit is due for New Orleans, but Minnesota is just a better team.
Yeah.
And now that Dobbs seems to be more comfortable, that he's building some chemistry early, and that the Vikings again have turned their season around in a span of a few weeks.
Yeah.
They're the better team, and they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, for Dobbs, it started out a disaster. He fumbled the ball was not pretty to start that game when he came in. But one thing I heard was that he didn't even know some of the names of the guys on the offense, his teammates. He didn't know their play calls, anything. And the fact that he was able to pull that off, that win off, that comeback win, is just so impressive. And, look, he was, I would say he was a really good quarterback considering the situation he was put in Arizona.
Oh, sure.
Um, there's only so much you could do in that situation because James Conner's been held for a bit now. And without James Conner in the lineup, there's no star player on that offense.
Right.
Um, so it's a struggle for him. It really is. So now that he gets to go to the Vikings, where he's got Hawkinson, Addison, Osborne, who's hurt now, eventually Justin Jefferson, who's gonna come back, a few other weapons as well. I mean, this could be a huge opportunity for Josh Dobbs to become the quarterback even in the future
Yeah,
for the
no,
Vikings. Just because keep in
exactly.
mind, Cousins is going to be a free agent.
Well, I mean, I was going to bring that up too, Jay, because even though now that Kirk Cousins is out, what does his free agent status look like? Number one, but number two, does he stay with the Vikings to begin with? And now
Yeah,
that he's injured, maybe a team takes him. Maybe the Vikings move on. If they really like Josh Dobbs and see a future stock in him, they build around him.
yeah,
So this could be a big break for Josh Dobbs, and if it works out for him in Minnesota, it works out perfectly. And
yeah.
honestly, look, for the Vikings to start the way they did and now how they've turned around so dramatically with, I believe, 4 straight wins. Look,
Yes,
with how
4.
well they're playing, this is great for this team. And now that they have this quarterback who, yeah, was shaky at first, but he turned things around. Now that you have a full week to prepare and be in this full mindset now and get ready to know your teammates and your play calls better, this is going to be a great example of what this Vikings team can do with this new quarterback. So
Yeah.
I think Minnesota wins. And with the Vikings, again, they're a team that has turned their season around in a blink of an eye. And Josh Dobbs can continue that, especially if they make the playoffs.
Yes, if they make the playoffs, I will say now I don't see how they don't look at him as the quarterback for
Hmm.
going forward,
Well,
especially with the start.
maybe they don't start him if they keep Cousins next year. I'm not sure what their game plan is. Maybe you move on from Cousins as a whole. We'll find out until when that time comes whether Kirk Cousins stays with the Vikings or not. But look, I mean, if Josh Dobbs has a productive year the rest of the way, and if he's able to lead them in the postseason, and let's say he's able to win even one round in the
Yeah.
postseason, the wild card, whatever, if they're able to do that, I think you keep him completely. That's a steal for the
Yes.
Vikings.
And you
And
don't
whether
have to
you
pay
keep
him that much.
right, and whether you keep Kirk Cousins or not, you don't got to rush him next year, especially if Cousins stays. And let's say he doesn't stay, then the job belongs to Dobbs, and it's a win-win regardless, not just for next year, but for years to come.
No, completely agree. I do think that'll be a fun game, but I have to lean towards the Vikings. We move into another really good game. This 1 o'clock window might be the best 1 o'clock window we've had in weeks, actually. A big division matchup. We got the Cleveland Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens. What do you got here?
That's a big good game, but Baltimore's been so good the past couple weeks, and the fact that they beat up on Detroit and beat up on Seattle as well this past
More
weekend.
than beat up. I mean, well, actually, both were just ugly games. Actually, never mind. Both those freaking games from.
Both
Yeah.
were ugly games, and Baltimore scored 38 and 37 respectively.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson looks phenomenal. He looks calm, cool, collected. This Ravens offense looks so strong. The defense, forget about it. They're even better. So you got to go Baltimore in your sleep. And look, Cleveland's played better. Their defense is good. They beat up on the Cardinals. They shut them out this past week. But look, Baltimore's just a lot better. Lamar Jackson looks great now that he's throwing the ball more and scrambling, not less, but more consistently enough where it's more successful and not as dangerous
Yeah.
and not as risky. But at the same time, this Baltimore team's a complete unit. And
Yeah.
honestly, if KC struggles a bit more, if Cincinnati can't get the ball rolling, if Buffalo continues to struggle, if some of these other AFC powerhouses
They could
don't
win the AFC.
lead up to expectations, then Baltimore could be a big sleeper.
Yeah. No, 100%. Look, I'll say it now. Cleveland's defense is good. Myles Garrett has been just dominating all
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
Um, Watson has had some trouble staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll say it now, and this is the same thing with the Steelers. I think the Browns and Steelers are two of the worst 5-3 teams I've ever seen before.
I agree,
They really are
especially
not.
Pittsburgh.
Yes, yes. They are not that good. Look, Amari Cooper is amazing. I still somewhat question why he went to Cleveland. Look, I feel like an amazing talent being wasted there in what's probably the final couple of years of his career because he is getting up there now. He has been in the league for a while now. He's wasting, some time in Cleveland. And look, they're good. They're 5-3. That's awesome. But I mean, with Watson, and last year Brissett for most of the season, it has definitely hurt him with, getting the ball. He's not getting
Right.
targeted as much, um, which sucks because he is still an amazing guy, even though he is getting older. Um,
Mhm.
look, Ford is awesome. Hunt's looked great, and we talked about it last week when we were on here. The fact that he was out of the league, I mean, look, he was in the league a little bit, but for the fact that he really didn't consistently play football for almost pretty much 2 years, and he's looking this good, is amazing. It really is. And I'm happy for Hunt, although obviously, look, I'm not the biggest Cleveland fan. As a Bengals fan, I would rather see them lose, and he has been a big, big piece for Cleveland, and look, they're not great. But they've been putting up the wins, but I don't see that continuing against Baltimore. Look, it's kind of crazy with Baltimore. Yeah, but I mean, obviously you have Lamar, but there is not one real I mean, Odell's not a star anymore, in my opinion. There's not one star. Well, Mark Andrews actually, but
Sure.
besides the tight end Mark Andrews, there's not one star player, and it's incredible how good that offense is doing.
Well, on top of that, they lose J.K. Dobbins in the beginning of the year. They have this, new running back tandem of Edwards and Hill. It's really these position players and these guys that you don't look at too much who are carrying the load while Lamar is running the ship. So put those two things together, and that's why they've been so good. And again, it's so impressive with how the defense is just following suit, with how the offense puts up 37 points and 38 points versus two potential playoff teams.
Yep.
So that tells you a lot. And honestly, with how well those two teams are playing, rather how Baltimore played versus those two teams, if they put up 38 and 37, who knows what they're going to put up versus Cleveland? And if Cleveland even scores 10 points, that might be surprising.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do think it will be a fun game. I do. Another good game. These division matchups, are always pretty fun. Um, and they're good battles. And like we say, no matter how good or bad a team is, there's always something more involved. So it should be a fun, exciting game there. We move into the next 1 o'clock window game, and it just continues to get good, except for potentially for the 49ers. It could continue to get worse here. 49ers versus the red hot Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you got in this one? Another great
Oh,
game.
man. Oh, man. Look, I mean, San Fran is really going down the tubes. They are not looking good. Brock Purdy's gone from up here to really going downhill. They've been injured. Okay, fine. But they bring in Chase Young now. They put him with Nick Bosa. Look, San Francisco's got to find a win. Their defense got better with Chase Young there now. We'll see what he does. But with this team, I mean, you cannot afford to lose another game.
No,
And if they lose, they'll go from 5-0 to 5-5, if my memory is correct. So, with that in mind,
it
I
would
think
be. I want to say it would be. Let me double
I
check
think
that.
5-5 and 5-4, something along those lines. Yeah,
It
five
would.
and four, Jason. Actually, I think.
Yes, it is right here. Let's see. Yeah, it would be 5-4 with the loss.
So you put those two things together, you go from winning five straight to losing four in a row,
No,
and
that's
now you
painful.
bring in Chase Young. Now you put him with his old Buckeye buddy and Nick Bosa, and you have this defense, which is still a very good defense. It's just Brock Purdy's making mistakes, and the offense has just been inconsistent because of injuries.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way to win this game, but it don't come easy against a really good Jacksonville team right
No,
now.
not at all.
And honestly, with how the tides are turning and how Jacksonville's on the high horse and San Fran's going down, you got to go with Jacksonville
Yep.
here. I mean, the offense has been red hot. The defense has been even better for the Jaguars. And I think, really, based on what we've seen the past couple of weeks, let alone the past 3 weeks with San Francisco, I mean, I think you could choose Jacksonville in your sleep in this game, despite San Fran starting 5-0 this year.
No, I completely agree. Jacksonville has just been on fire lately. Trevor Lawrence is finally out there looking like an elite quarterback. He was
Yeah.
really not, the start of his career up until this recent stretch of games. He was always that inconsistent guy. We've talked about it multiple times when we've been on here. You never knew what you were going to get out of him. But it's finally seeming like we're at that point with Trevor Lawrence of we know what we're getting now. He really seems like he's improved. He looks like a great quarterback. Uh, ETN has been on fire as well. So even if, Trevor Lawrence is struggling, ETN's been there to pick him up and, run the ball and do something incredible. Carrick's been good. Ingram's been good. Look, the Niners, Brock Purdy just, looks just like a disaster out there. Multiple picks recently. Not really making the plays that he was. And I'm curious on your opinion. What I will say is I am going Jacksonville in this game. But my question is, a few weeks back, Christian McCaffrey obviously had the oblique injury. Do you
Mhm.
think that was a stupid decision to play him with his history of injuries in the next
I
game after
mean,
that
look,
oblique injury?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, you know his injury history, you know how injury prone he's been throughout his long span career, mainly with Carolina. But Jason, maybe I'm wrong on this, but he hasn't suffered a long term injury from it. He's still playing. He's still
No, no, you're
out
100%
there.
right. But my point is with the history, if you have a situation with McCaffrey and he got injured in oblique, and obviously that could be a big injury.
Oh
Luckily,
yeah.
he avoided something major there. But if you have an injury, like that, sit him for a week. God forbid it gets worse. I just feel that,
I
you can't
mean,
afford to lose him.
I mean, I see your point, but to play devil's advocate, with how injury prone they've been already, and the fact that they're without Deebo Samuel, you've seen the offense dramatically decrease for San Francisco with that one injury alone. If you take away another star player for this offense on top of the one already, I think that sinks their chances even more. So, look, I mean, I see the concern. We know his injury history, what have you, but their season right here is on the line. You can't
No, you're
afford to sit
right. You are
McCaffrey this
right.
week or sit week 3.
You are right, but
You
keep
can't
in
afford
mind,
that, Jason.
yes, but keep in mind when the oblique injury happened, they were not at the point they were at right now with these losses. And you keep in mind, at the time, it probably would have made sense. Protect him for one game and worry about the rest of your season.
Yeah, I mean, I see that point too, but let's not forget at the time he was going for a record of most consecutive touchdowns in consecutive games or whatever it was.
Well, doesn't he
So
not lose
part
that
of
if
that
he misses a
too.
game?
I mean, I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. But at the same time, look, I mean, you keep that in mind, but you also keep in mind with how injury prone the team was before, his injury. I think that played a factor in it too. But let's not forget, San Fran was just so hot right there. No
Yeah.
one would have guessed they would have lost to Cleveland the way they did.
No,
And
yeah.
after losing to Cleveland, it's been going downhill. And now, look, I mean, I see the argument, but you can't change the past.
No,
And
you're right.
right now, you're going to have to play him. And with your season on the line and with a big game versus a red hot Jacksonville team, he can't afford to miss this game. He can't afford just to take a rest one week. You got to play him, and you got to find a way to win.
No, you're 100%. You're all right. I was more talking the week right after the injury, not so
Right,
much this
right,
week, because keep in
right.
mind
But I mean,
they had the bye, so he's good now. But I'm talking
right,
the week.
right.
Yeah.
But again, Jason, I mean, it still wouldn't have played that big of a difference, I think, in my opinion. And let's say he did sit. I mean, maybe they still lose that game, sure. But let's not forget, even in the losses, McCaffrey is still scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
Even in the losses, he's putting up big numbers. So you take him away, and San Fran might lose even worse than the way they have already these past couple
No,
weeks.
you're right. But again, this is just one in many amazing 1 o'clock window games. This is actually the best 1 o'clock window in a while. We move into the next 1 o'clock game, and honestly, it went from what could have been a really boring matchup with Tannehill or Malik Willis to now Levis in there to a really exciting one with Levis and the Titans versus Baker and the Bucks. Another, fun quarterback game. Quarterbacks who like to throw the ball a lot and, could be exciting. So what do you got on this one?
This could be a good matchup, or this could be a frenzy of picks. You're getting either one. And Will Levis did not put up the same stats he did in his debut, but he still looked pretty good in
Yeah.
that loss to Pittsburgh. But I will say this, Jason, with Levis playing good and with Levis being a better alternative the past two games compared to
Oh, I think we lost him.
they weren't supposed to be the top team, but the fact that they're in this division race now and they're dropping these couple games recent, it's not been the best look for them. So I think if you put all those things together, I think you go Will Levis. I think you go with Tennessee. I'll take Tennessee for this one. And with how Levis has impressed so far, I mean, keep the hot hand going. And who knows, maybe that changes, and maybe both of these quarterbacks have tough days and they throw multiple picks each.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I'll take Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Levis struggles as well as Baker.
Yeah. You briefly did cut out though, you froze, so I missed the part just so everyone hears. You were saying he was a better alternative. Is that what the first part? Like I missed the first like 10 to 15 seconds of what you were saying.
Better alternative than Tannehill? Absolutely.
You
Yes.
think? Okay. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I
no.
mean, look, I mean, think
Sorry.
about it. Tannehill looks awful. And ever since he got that big contract a couple seasons ago, he's not been the same quarterback. Now he was already, your average guy, but he was able to get across the finish line. Now
Yes.
he can't even reach a quarter of the way through. So he's just been regressing so badly. This year, especially, he's been horrific. They benched him for a reason for Will Levis. And now that Levis is in and has looked good these couple of games, yeah, it's a massive upgrade. And it's a cheaper upgrade too. So if Will Levis can keep it going, great. But look, I mean, he's a guy that also could regress just like Baker. And Baker looked strong at first, but took a lot of steps back. And for his sake, I hope Will Levis doesn't do that. But he's a guy that also is kind of hit or miss. And if he does regress, don't be surprised. So again, we could see Levis play great. We could see Baker struggle, or we could see both quarterbacks throw more than two picks. Who
No,
knows?
I completely agree on that. For me, I'm actually gonna go with Levis and the Titans here. I like his look out there. Um, Baker, like you said, Baker's just back to himself. He really is. It's just not pretty out there. Again, just a lot of big mistakes from that Bucks team. That's costing them games, and the Bills game, there were a few big mistakes that cost them last week. It's just rough for them. It really is. So it's a shame. I mean, because I do like Baker as a person. He seems like a good, genuine quarterback who wants to win. And he can be good. And then at other times he really struggles. Look, they got that game there and then they blew it at the end. So no, I mean I'm just more impressed with Levis. I really am. So look, I could see this actually being a bit of like both teams like 25 plus points at least. I could totally see that. I would not be surprised. Neither defense has really impressed me lately. They've been giving up a lot. So I will go Titans. This should be a fun game as well. But yeah, I got Titans in this. We move into the last 1 o'clock window in the last game before we actually restart the call. We got your Packers versus the Steelers, which could actually be a decent game depending on how both quarterbacks look. So what do you got in this one?
Okay, so when I picked the Packers to lose, they win. And I was surprised, even with Matthew Stafford out last week, that the Packers actually won. So I'm thrilled. So for the sake of the segment, I'm picking Pittsburgh. And for the sake of my sanity, I'm picking Pittsburgh so the Packers hopefully win. Um, Look, I think Green Bay is hopefully going to win this game, but I look at reality. Pittsburgh's not great either, but Jordan Love has just been horrific.
Mm,
He's been so bad. And look, I'm shocked they beat the Rams. And again, part of that was Stafford being out, sure, but still, I'm shocked they won by more than
yeah.
10 points. They won by 17. So I think we're going to see this Packers team regress. And I think we're going to see Pittsburgh win, especially at home in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh seems to be better at home than on the road. That should be common for any team, but that's especially the Steelers this year. I think Pittsburgh wins. Look, say what you want about Pickett and what have you, but they're coming off the recent win on Thursday night, and they've got a lot of rest before this game against Green Bay. So give me Pittsburgh because of the rest. The offense looked a lot better versus Tennessee. Deontay Johnson finally scored a touchdown for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah.
And for this Pittsburgh team to play the way they did, it was good for them to hold on and beat Tennessee. I think they'll do it again. And on top of that, Pittsburgh defense has just been so strong recently. And
Yeah.
TJ Watt is going to have a field day against Jordan Love.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Steelers in this one as well. As you said, Deontay Johnson got a touchdown, and look, that's huge. It finally breaks the ice for him, finally gets something going. Maybe he starts to break out again and looks like the previous the Deontay Johnson prior to this little 2-year touchdown drought. Because before that, he was good. He really was.
And that will happen, of course, versus the Packers. So what do you
Yeah. Look, I mean, prior to this little, drought, he was a great receiver. Najee Harris broke out a little last week too. He had a better week. It wasn't great, but it was better. Look, anything's better than what he had produced so far this season. It was really not good. It really wasn't. You take what he did last week and you're happy with it. They won, and that's a huge thing for the team. And if he could build on that even more, that's huge. You guys won, against Ripon, but still, you guys aren't using your key guys enough, like Christian Watson. You really are not. I don't understand what's going on with that situation.
Thanks for reminding me. I've been saying this the whole dang season.
But I want your opinion because we have 2 minutes left before we have to restart the call. So quick question for you with how all these teams stand right now. The Bills struggling. Some of the other teams in the race that are around there kind of iffy as well. Can you see there being any chance that all 4 teams, the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns, all make the playoffs?
I think that's a stretch, to be honest with you. I don't think Cleveland's going to get in. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to get in.
But you
Pittsburgh can
think
have a 6-3
Cincy?
record by the end of this week. Look, I think Pittsburgh doesn't get in even with a 6-3 record if they have that by the end of this week. Cincinnati, I think, gets in. I think they'll just sneak in as a wild card. I think Baltimore has a division. That division's long gone. So I think we'll see 2 teams. We'll see Baltimore and Cincy like we expected, really, to begin with. It's just maybe we expected the opposite order, but I think we'll see Baltimore and Cincinnati in the postseason. Don't expect Pittsburgh. Do not expect Cleveland.
Okay.
Whether Watson's healthy or not, that offense is not competent enough, especially in the passing game, to be postseason playable. So, Look, I think they'll be able to, miss those playoffs, both Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I think Cincy and Baltimore get in, and that's just as expected.
Yep. Okay, so Alex, now we move in to the 4-5 window. We start off strong with yet another really good game. We got Lions, Chargers, the return of David Montgomery this week. What do you got on this one?
Detroit is going to be back again. And with David Montgomery back at the helm, they're going to steamroll Los Angeles. Now, look, this game could be maybe a 30-20 game or maybe a 40-25, whatever. We'll see what the score is. But I think Detroit wins based on the fact that their key running back is back and that the Lions as a whole, after that really tough loss to Baltimore, they've really turned ship around. And they blew away Las Vegas in Detroit on Monday Night Football. So I think Detroit plays well. I think they win the game. The Chargers had a very good game at the expense of the Jets. And look, I mean, they're coming off that great win in New Jersey, and I think they'll have some momentum. I think their offense will play well. I think their defense will play decent, but not enough to contain Montgomery and this really good Detroit offense. So I think Detroit wins regardless, but this could be a shootout where that this game could go back and forth. But I see the Chargers defense getting pummeled more than Detroit's.
Yeah. I'm taking the Lions in this one as well. One thing, I'm not sure if you watched the game last night, but Herbert seemed to hurt his finger, and it was completely wrapped up. so he was having some trouble at times. I mean, it wasn't, despite the win, it was not an impressive performance from Justin Herbert. It was more, it's one of those games where you can't tell, are the Jets just really bad, or are the Chargers good? There's no like way to tell. It just was such a rough, ugly game, in my opinion.
Right. Well,
Um,
look, hey, Aaron Rodgers could be coming back in a few weeks. That's what he told Derwin James on Monday Night Football. So if that's the case, then the Jets right now just had a really bad game on Monday night. But if good old Aaron comes back, that's a whole different story.
yes.
And maybe the Jets, they got the season they were hoping for.
The question I have for you, Alex, so for him to come back, do you think they need to by like week 10, week 11? Do you think they still have to be over 500 or over?
I mean, look, I think whether 500 or not, whenever he comes back, I think he still plays. But I think at the same time, if they're over 500, then it gives him more of a reason to play. So
Sure.
I think we'll see him regardless, whatever the record is for the Jets. They're 4-4 right now. But at the same time, especially if they're in postseason action or could be competing more for a postseason spot, then Rodgers definitely comes back if he's able to, whenever that is, and he could lead them to a postseason.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that is a huge opportunity for the Jets. We'll get into them later. But look, just with Montgomery back for the Lions, Joshua, Jameer Gibbs, I don't know why I said Joshua, Jameer Gibbs has woken up. He has been incredible the last few weeks. As I said to you a couple weeks back, you got to get the kid into the end zone. You got to build his confidence. They did that, and look at what he's doing now. The kid has been on an absolute tear these last couple weeks with David Montgomery. In my opinion, this might actually be, if Gibbs keeps this up, this could be the best 1-2 combo of running backs in the league on a team.
It's possible. And look, I mean, the fact that the rookie in Gibbs has been able to really turn things around and take over with David Montgomery being injured the past couple of weeks, I think that's a great sign for this Lions team. And now that you get both guys there at the same time this week against the Chargers team that does give up a lot of points in general, despite playing Chicago and the Jets the past couple of weeks, but in general, they've given up a lot of points this year. I think you keep that in mind. I think you could see a very scary duo and maybe the best, definitely one of the best for sure. Regardless, the rookie in Gibbs, he gets going more. Montgomery, the guy who they brought in, who's been their offensive star before getting injured. Look, I mean, it's a win-win for Detroit regardless. And if they're able to build this connection further with this 1-2 punch, this is going to be a deadly, deadly
Yes.
offense, especially on the ground.
Yeah, and on top of that, not even just on the ground, you have Laporta, who's been incredible as a
Yeah.
rookie. Uh, St. Brown has been awesome. Reynolds has been playing good. All these guys, just everybody is just stepping up. You got it's so impressive. The Lions, the one thing that the only concern for the Lions right now is the sudden hot streak of the of the Vikings. If the Lions mess up a little bit, the Vikings are right on the breathing down their necks again. It's crazy. It really is. But I do think the Lions get this win, a very important win in my opinion. Uh, okay, we move in to the second of the two 4-5 games. We start to get into the window of games that are just, but I guess it's a little interesting now that we have Taylor Heineke and the Atlanta Falcons against, I guess, the returning Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. What do you got on this one?
Oh,
And
oh man.
also, James Conner is back, by the way.
Oh my. Well, this game is going to be somewhat interesting or a complete crapshoot. I think you go with Atlanta because the fact that they played a great game but blew that game and sadly lost to Minnesota for their sake, they're going to be hungry to bounce back. And now they've lost two straight close games that they A had to come back from or B blew.
Yeah.
And this Falcons team, they've been surprising the league all year long. And with this quarterback change, there definitely has been a lot of things ruffled up. But at the same time, you look at this team, and the Falcons are not a bad team.
No.
They're surprising the league. They're playing well. They've lost some two pretty tough games the past couple of weeks, but this is where they got to bounce back. And whether Connor's healthy or not, Arizona's defense stinks.
Yeah.
And the Falcons got to find a way to grab a win and bounce back. Especially, let's say Tampa somehow wins this week, then Atlanta's division lead gets even smaller.
They're not in
So,
the lead anymore. It's the Saints.
oh, it is the Saints now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that tells you that enough too, right there. So if the Falcons want to get back in that lead, or if the Falcons want to be able to keep things going this year, they got to win this game, and they got to hope they get some help from some friends who are playing the Saints and the Buccaneers. And honestly, both Tampa and New Orleans could lose this week.
Yep.
So if both of those teams lose and the Falcons win, it salvages their season, and it makes this now three-way race more detrimental for the NFC South Crown. So
Yeah.
look, this has got to be a must-win for the Falcons, and I don't want to say their season is on the line here, but it's a must-win game that if you lose, there is no excuse. I don't know
No.
how you lose this game to Arizona, whether Connor's healthy or not. So,
Yeah.
with that said, I think the Falcons win. And with that being said, the Falcons should not lose this game.
No. If they lose this game, look, yeah, you're only 2 out against a Saints team that you never know what you're getting out of, but it becomes significantly harder to get that. To get back into that race. Look, if you lose this game to a bad Cardinals team, you're really shooting yourself in the foot here.
Mm-hmm.
It really is rough. You cannot afford to lose this game. Um, Look, Kyler's back, but it's his first game back after an ACL tear. I'm not expecting it to go amazing. I really
Oh no,
don't.
yeah.
Um,
Look, I mean, hopefully he'll be all right, but
no,
I
I
mean,
mean it's
he tore his ACL on the same exact turf he's going to be playing on Sunday.
yeah.
So I think that tells you a lot right there, number one. But number two, look, again, the Falcons are just a better team, and there's more at stake for them than Arizona.
The one thing, and I could totally see this. I could because of the issue. He's not going to be running the ball a lot. I don't see him coming back and running the ball a lot. I see him doing a lot of little passes to James Conner.
Yeah, I see that.
The one guy on that Cardinals offense that is going to benefit from the return of Kyler Murray is Rondale Moore. He has done nothing all season, and I think that's going to benefit him having Kyler Murray back.
Well, I
But
mean that, but
that's it.
also Hollywood Brown's got to get more involved
Yeah.
too. And with Kyler Murray being able to, hopefully throw more and be not 100% most likely, but he's able to get back there, and hopefully he's able to target it, Marquise Brown more. If he's able to do that, that helps him too, and that helps this whole offense for the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, I agree. But no, I will go Falcons in this one. This is a must win. Use Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson as much as you can if you're Heineke.
Yep.
Okay, we move into the first 425 game, and this is a game that is a prime example of why I watch NFL Red Zone. I just wish for my sake, based on the fact that it is my team and one of my teams in the situation we're in right now, there were more games, so I had to see less of this one. Um, we got the Giants getting ready to get slaughtered by the Dallas Cowboys. What do you got on this one?
Again?
It's the second time.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, they lost 40-0 last time. And the Giants just got railroaded last week to Vegas 30-6. Daniel Jones just tore his ACL. Tommy DeVito might be the guy again.
I think he
Tyrod
is.
Taylor has a ribbon. Um, the Giants are an absolute laughingstock. I'm sorry. They are an absolute joke. Look, it's one thing for my Packers to stink. The Giants, SUCK exclamation point. They absolutely suck. They are awful. And whether it's Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, whoever the quarterback is, they don't got a hope and a prayer in this game, man. I mean, they lost 40-0 last time. Dallas coming off a really tough loss to Philly. Dak Prescott almost had 400 yards
Yeah,
last week in that
that's
loss.
crazy.
I wouldn't be shocked if he actually puts up 400 versus Big Blue.
Yeah,
I mean, Big Blue freaking stinks. It's going to be a disaster. Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas by a mile. I will say that was the best Dak has looked, in my opinion, against an elite team
I
last week.
agree. Look, I mean, Look, I mean, he's had some good games, this year, and he's had some good games in general, especially in his rookie year. He was solid. But, again, versus these top competitors, he's flaked out.
Mm.
But even in that loss, I'll give him the credit where credit's due. 374 total yards, I think 3 touchdown passes. CeeDee Lamb has been an absolute benefit, excuse me, for him. And with those things in mind, that's going to carry over here in this game versus the pathetic Giants. So
Yeah.
it's Jason, at this point, look, I mean, the season's been over.
I've thrown in the towel weeks ago. Oh.
Look, I mean, this is just another example of why you don't watch the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Because if you care about your sanity and you care about your mental health, you don't watch this game.
Yeah.
And Tommy DeVito, I'm sure, is a great guy and a nice kid, but I rather watch Dan DeVito do stand up than watch this game.
Yeah. Look, Dak's big oof moment last week was the 2-point conversion stepping out of bounds because they could have tied the game late there if he didn't step out of bounds. But yeah, I think Dak and just CeeDee Lamb are just gonna absolutely obliterate us. I would not be shocked if we're below 10 points in this game. I really would not be.
I
And
mean,
on
I'll
top of
be
the fact
shocked
that
if
we
you guys get
don't,
7.
yeah, on top of the fact that we don't have a kicker, Graham Gano's out. He had surgery. We don't have a good kicker.
You don't have a kicker. You don't got a quarterback. Saquon's been hurt this year.
Yeah.
Your defense stinks. Your wide receiver core stinks. Brian Dable's an idiot.
We have no Darren
The
Waller.
GM looks awful.
No
The front
Darren.
office looks terrible. The Giants are an absolute laughingstock.
And we have no Darren Waller.
And no Darren Waller. You stink.
Yeah, Darren Waller must be like, Vegas is bad, but why did I leave Vegas for this?
Yeah, especially when he got his butt kicked to his former team by 24 points last week.
He didn't play in that game either.
Doesn't matter. His team still beat his old team still beat his team by 24 points in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the one thing, and before we move on, and this is the thing for the Giants fans that we've been able to say for years, and it's sadly no longer the case. And first off, I'm happy I have the Bengals at least because they're keeping me somewhat sane. But the Giants fans have always been able to say no matter how bad we are, the Jets always end up being worse. But it's not the case anymore. As bad as the Jets are right now with Zach Wilson, because that game yesterday was ugly as hell. We are the worst New York team. We are.
Honestly, I think you might be the worst New York team. Period.
Yeah.
Out of all the pro sports.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think you might be the worst New York team. Period. I mean, the Mets are bad enough. The Yankees had a bad year. Hockey's pretty good in general for both squads and New Jersey. Basketball, Knicks and Nets are all right, but the Jets have been 500. They've been somewhat competent. Giants are an absolute laughingstock.
Yeah, I mean,
that's so bad. They're so bad. It is just ridiculous how bad they are.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Mets. The end in rotation, bad in order was Tim LoCastro, Danny Mendick, Jonathan Aruz. That just sums it all up right there. You hear those 3 names and you just realize it's not pretty.
Look, the Mets aren't much better. But whether it's a 162 game season or not, the Mets still win more games and the Mets are more respectable.
Keep in mind, if you don't win more games than the Giants, that's a problem because it's a 17-game season. So in a 162-game season, if you don't win that many games, I think you just need to disband the franchise. But
and that's how the Mets would do it.
Yeah.
The Mets would lose 140 plus games.
Hey, I after this year, I would be. Let's not think about it. This year was bad enough. Sign Vogel back. All right, we're moving to the last 425 game. A game that I don't know became a little more interesting with the fact that the Commanders won and the Seahawks got blown out. What do you got in this one? The Commanders versus Seattle.
I think Seattle bounces back. Washington's unstable. They win a game, then they lose a couple. They win a game, they lose a couple. So I think that trend continues. I think Seattle wins. And sure, Seattle got absolutely destroyed by Baltimore. But you know what? Detroit also got destroyed by Baltimore, and they bounced back. Yeah. So I think Seattle bounces back. I think they'll take care of business. The Commanders have been better. They've put up some pretty good games. Sam Howell looks better, especially offensively for this team, as he's the quarterback, of course. But I think they'll put up somewhat of an effort, but I think Seattle bounces back. They'll look a lot better. I think Gino will rebound. I think Lockett, Metcalf, the whole crew, Kenneth Walker. I think this whole offense will take advantage of this Commanders defense without both Montez Sweat and Chase Young now.
Yeah.
So put those two things together without them being there, and Seattle's going to win. Washington will make it respectable, but I still think the Seahawks come away with the victory.
I agree with that. I think Seahawks win this game. I just said the last week, I don't see how the Seahawks don't come out angry, ready to roll. Kenneth Walker needs to be good. Lockett, Metcalf, their guys need to step up again. Last week was just probably one of the ugliest games Gino has had as a Seahawk. Was not pretty at all.
Yeah.
But look, we'll see. Commanders did win last week, but again, I'm still not like I'm not sold on Sam Howell. I'm not at all, not even close. He needs to do a lot to sell me on him. He's a guy that, he's either pretty good or really, really bad. So I don't know. The defense now took a massive hit. They went into the season with actually a pretty good defense, and now it's significantly worse. It really is. So overall, I just think the Seahawks are much better. The Seahawks know that with the fact that the Niners could lose this week to Jacksonville, this is a huge opportunity. This is a must win for them. They'll get a
Mm-hmm.
game lead in that division. With the fact that they have 2 games coming up next month with the 49ers. They need to get a lead in that division. They really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
they know that, and this is a big opportunity to put themselves in a scenario because if you win this week and somehow you could go into that game with the Niners with a 1-game lead and then you beat them in that first game and go up 2 on them, at that stage of the season, it's going to be very hard for the Niners to catch you. So huge opportunity
No,
for
you're right.
Seattle right
You're
here.
right.
Cannot fail to capitalize on this because I have a really strong feeling, as we said earlier, Jacksonville wins this game against the
Oh
Niners
yeah.
and they could go up a game in the
Well,
division.
again, the fact that we're talking about this, that Seattle could leapfrog San Francisco after what we saw in the first couple of weeks, is nuts by itself. But you
Yeah.
know what? It could happen, and Seattle has the cards in their favor. And if you drop the cards and you fold the deck, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And Seattle's got to find a way to win. I think regardless they will. Again, versus this Commanders defense that just traded away 2 of their top pieces on the front 7. And with those 2 guys gone, it just shows how bad Washington's been this year and how worse in general they're going to get throughout this season.
Yes. And I just looked at the Seahawks schedule before we move on. They have, between this game and they also have a really easy game next week. They play the Rams next week. They have a huge opportunity here. And on top of that, they play the Rams and the 49ers play the Bucks. And look, I'm not even sold that the 49ers, this current 49ers team could beat the Bucks. I'm really not.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
huge opportunity. Seahawks must capitalize. If they don't, honestly, I'll say it now, they don't deserve to win the division if they don't capitalize on this opportunity. We move in though to Sunday Night Football. Um, uh, 2 teams that just not fun to watch. Sunday Night Football is going to be really iffy. We got Zach Wilson looking for a huge win against McConnell and the Raiders. What do you got in this one? Sunday Night Football! Woohoo!
Look, it's bad enough Thursday Night Football stinks. Why is NBC messing up with this game?
They gave the Jets Monday
Why?
night, back-to-back weeks, Monday Night Football and then Sunday night. I don't know what they just did that for.
Look, I mean, if you think about it before the Rodgers injury, it made sense. But now the Jets are back and forth. The Raiders absolutely stink.
True, when you make the
Garoppolo,
schedule, yes, you're right. You think it's going to be Rodgers versus Garoppolo. You're all right. So, yes.
but still, the Raiders are not good. The Jets were going to be good, but without now with Zach Wilson, it's been hit or miss. Look, I just don't know because the Raiders could somehow shock the Jets and beat them up like they beat up the Giants, or Zach Wilson could play a competent enough game where the defense and the running game for New York just does just enough for them to pull out with the win. I'm going to give the Jets the benefit of the doubt. I think New York wins, and I think they get to 5-4. And with that in mind, I think Zach Wilson plays all right. But again, this run game with Brees Hall and the rest of the gang, and this Jets defense, which has been really, really good this year, except for last week on Monday Night Football. I think you put these things together, I think the Jets win, and they're
Mm.
going to find a way to exploit this Raiders team. Now, Max Crosby's one thing, but the rest of his defense stinks for Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And his Vegas offense, whether it's O'Connell, whoever's throwing the ball, they're not good. And
Yes.
Devontae Adams almost could have been traded to New York. That was actually a rumor that
Really.
came out a couple of days ago that
Wow.
the Jets were trying to trade for Adams, and the Raiders front office denied that. That came before the trade deadline. And then after the whole deadline happened, they, of course, fired McDaniels, the front office, the whole gang. So Devontae Adams could be with the gang green right now, but he's stuck in Vegas and not happy as I don't blame him. So I think with that in mind, I think the Jets win. I think the Raiders stink, and the Jets will bounce back after a really ugly loss on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, no, I agree. Jets will bounce back. Out of curiosity, how
Yeah.
long is Devontae Adams' deal there?
I don't know. I mean, I think he's a free agent following this year. I could be completely wrong on that, but I'm not sure what his contract is. All I know is that he wants out of Vegas. And ever since they didn't bring back Derek Carr, you can't blame the guy
Yeah.
because he went to Vegas to play with
For
his
Derek,
buddy,
yeah.
Derek Carr. And now that Carr is gone, why would he stay? And now that the Raiders are a train wreck, why would he stay?
Yeah.
And the fact that the coach, the front office, a whole bunch of others got fired before November, why would you want to stay?
Yeah.
I don't blame him. So I think with that, the Raiders will show the mess they really are. And on top of that, the Jets will bounce back and improve the 5-4. I think that
No,
will. I think that will happen. I do.
completely agree. The one thing you got to
So
do is the Jets, and we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Don't make Zach Wilson do more than he has to. That happened this week. He had to do a lot more than he should, and it turned out to be a complete another disaster. Fumbles and turnover city with him. Just look, just let him do simple passes. Let him get Brees Hall involved, Michael Carter, even Dalvin Cook. Just do what you got to do. Uh, you know, when you put too much pressure on Zach Wilson, it just ends up being a complete disaster, and that's what happened last night. So, just a disaster. We've seen when his team is able to help him do a little bit less, we see how much better it actually makes him look and the team. So, you got to help him as the team. You really do. You got to make it a little bit easier on him. So,
and on top of that, Jason, let's say for argument's sake, Aaron Rodgers somehow comes back in a couple of weeks. Then we don't have the Zach Wilson experiment for the rest of the year. Rodgers comes back, and if he comes back, that's where this Jets team really turns around. So you need a win like this to prepare, if so, for Aaron Rodgers. And whether Rodgers comes back or not, you should still shoot to make the postseason. And this is a game that gets you one step closer to that feat. So not again, you got to win this game for those two things, for those two reasons. But at the same time, look, I mean, this is a game that's winnable because the Raiders are awful.
yeah.
So if the Jets lose, that's a problem.
Yes. Before we move on, the Bills lost this week, the Dolphins lost this week, and we talked about it last week. And the Jets had a golden opportunity that if those teams lost, and which they did, and they had an opportunity to move in front of the Bills and pick up another game on the Dolphins, and the Jets just completely just vanished yesterday, and it was just an utter disaster of a game. So huge missed opportunity for the Jets. You do got to bounce back and win this game, or otherwise it's going to be hard. It really is because look, Rodgers certainly won't be back next week. I don't see that. So if you don't win this week, I mean, next week you guys play the Bills and they could very well be 4-6.
Yeah,
So you got to win this week, and hopefully Rodgers is back for week 12 and you're 5-5, in
yeah,
my opinion. So, but we move into Monday Night Football, and this game actually, you would have thought going into the season, this game is gonna, or even a few weeks ago, that this game was gonna be a blowout and a disaster. But with how the Broncos have played lately and the Bills have looked, this game is very interesting in my opinion. What do you got in this one?
The Denver Broncos have beaten three teams: the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, and the defending champion Kansas City
Yeah.
Chiefs. Buffalo has been so back and forth, the seesaw has been broken at this point.
Yeah.
So, with how inconsistent Josh Allen has been, and they're coming off this loss to Cincinnati, they got plenty of time to rest up. Guaranteed that helps Buffalo. But at the same time, hey, Denver's got the hot hand right now. And if they can keep it going, they could pull it off. The
Yeah.
question is if, though. And that,
It's a big
that is
if.
a big if. But at the same time, the question is for Buffalo, can they actually play a competent game and be consistent? And now they're 5-4. And the Bills at the same time, same deal where they got to win this game to keep their season alive, but also make sure the Jets don't climb ahead. So, with that in mind, I think you're going to see a game that's going to be interesting. You're going to see more pressure on Josh Allen than Russell Wilson to perform better. And honestly, I think with that in mind, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going with the Broncos. And I hope the Broncos win for their sake. Josh Allen has not been good this year. Buffalo is overrated. Buffalo is not that good of a team.
Yeah.
And the Broncos aren't great either. But honestly, with how well they've played the past couple of weeks and how they upset KC, especially, kudos to Denver, kudos to Russell Wilson. If they get the win, I'd be happy for them. So I'll hop on the Broncos train for this week. And if they get the win, they get it.
Yeah. No, I agree. How crazy is it to say that right now the Denver Broncos are 2 games out of a playoff spot?
Are they really?
Yeah, the last spot I believe is 5-3, and they're just out of it. Yeah, they're just out of it, which is insane to me. Just absolutely incredible. Look, I'm not saying they're gonna get it, but I don't know with how they look these last couple weeks. They're gonna want to keep that rolling. They've got the hot hand. I don't know what's going on with Josh Allen. I really don't. You're struggling to get some of you guys open, and you don't even look one time at what's his name, Gabe Davis at all. The guy had no reception. I don't think he had no targets. He didn't even target Gabe Davis once.
Hmm.
Something's not right with Allen. And this year, and the one thing is, and we saw it a bit last year, but that was okay, like understandable because it was his injury. But the one thing over the last few years we've noticed with the Bills is they've stayed the same. They haven't really grown as a team. They haven't really added too many big pieces over the last few years. Yeah, they added Diggs a couple years ago, but besides that, they've kind of stayed the same team. Every other team around them is continuing to grow as a team and get better and add key pieces. They really
I
haven't.
mean,
But keep in mind, the guys that they have added to their defense, sorry, they have added on defense. But look at their defense now. It's just destroyed with injuries. They have been obliterated on defense with injuries.
well, look, I mean, losing Tre'Davious White didn't help you to begin with, and Von
Yeah.
Miller is not the player he once was.
And you lost
But
Matt Milano.
you lost him too. Micah Hyde got shaken up in Sunday's game, but he came back. And then Rasul Douglas, they trade for him from Green Bay. Yeah, he played all right, but again, this is where it's that next man up mentality, but it hasn't worked out as a whole for the Bills. And honestly, with that in mind, Jason, I think they're going to struggle. And again, I think they're going to find a way to lose this game to Denver. It sounds crazy. It sounds nuts. But the Broncos are right in the hot hand.
Yes.
And Denver has nothing to lose if they win or lose this game. If they win
Yes.
this game and they're one playoff, they're one game back and making a postseason, that's a remarkable turnaround in such
Yes.
a short span of time. So if they could do that, good for them. And honestly, it gives Buffalo more things to worry about. So
Yes.
I think, look, whether I'm right or wrong on this pick, I don't really care. This is where, you know what? If I let it loose and I roll the dice on this one, I can roll the dice on this game. And if I hit with Denver, that's pretty good.
Meh.
That's pretty good to hit with
Yes.
Denver. And I think they'll find a way to hit for the person who chooses Denver.
Yeah.
I think they win.
I'm gonna say this now. If the Bills could lose to the Patriots, they could certainly lose to Denver. Especially this current version of Denver that has woken up lately.
Mm-hmm.
Sutton's been
Yep.
good. Judy's been good. Williams has been good in the back. Russell Wilson's looking much better lately. Um, they are really, really helping Sean Payton's image right now.
Mm-hmm.
He desperately needed that because if this was a bad season, it would not have been a good look for him. So he's probably sitting there so happy that they're turning this around at least a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, just overall, I think they right now are the better looking team. It's hard to trust Josh Allen. It really is. The defense is just collapsing with injuries. I feel like one key piece goes down every game on that defense. Um, frustration might be building there. Um, you notice Josh Allen doing childish things, and I wonder if that's out of frustration. Like he took that taunting penalty on the Russian touchdown when he pointed at the guy and they lost. That's just stuff that I do wonder if that's from built up frustration from what's been going on these last couple weeks. So yeah, overall, I just think right now I never thought I'd say it. The Broncos have been more impressive lately than the Bills, and I think that continues this week. I really do. Um, but what I will say is, last week, week 9, was a little iffy with the games, but this week has some amazing games lined up. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a couple great games in each window. I could see the Broncos Bills game being fun. The Falcons game could be decent. And honestly, the whole 1 o'clock window is absolutely incredible. So the Lions Chargers. So I just think this is a great lineup. I mean, uh, I'm pumped for it. I mean, is there out of all those games in the that we really said, is there a game that I'm curious because we have a couple minutes. We don't usually do this, but I am curious. Is there a game that stands out to you out of those games that could be the game of the week in your opinion?
Look, I mean, there's a slugfest of games to really enjoy, but I think the one that could stand out could be Houston Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The fact that you got Stroud and Burrow going head to head, especially for the first time in the NFL. So that'll be interesting. And especially if Houston can win the game, that could be the win of the week by itself. So that's going to be something. I think that's one to definitely keep an eye on for sure. I think, I mean, maybe if Denver can beat Buffalo, that'll be something as well. At the same time, Detroit seeing Montgomery come back, that'll be interesting for them as well. I mean, there's again a slew of those one
Niners
o'clock games.
Jaguars, yeah.
Yeah, all those games are going to be really interesting, especially in the 1 o'clock window. So, yeah, man, we'll see what happens. And look, I chose Pittsburgh, and hopefully the Packers win 2 straight when I choose them to lose. So
Yeah, if the
we'll see what
Packers win
happens.
this game, you just no matter what, every time you go in the segment, you should just pick whoever the Packers are playing. If they win this
I
game,
will. I will do that
yeah.
because Jordan Love stinks, and for the sake of the segment and for the sake of my sanity, I will save the rants for next week.
All right, though. But yeah, it looks like a great week of
Yep.
football. Great week 10.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching our week 10 predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're new here, drop a sub, leave a like, also leave a comment down below with your predictions for the week. Would love to hear them. Again, some really, really good games this week. Probably one of the better weeks we've had of NFL games, so I'm really excited for this week. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out, YouTube.